I want you to get your Bible out with me today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you've enjoyed the service so far. We've got a wonderful worship team that really tries to push in and lead us to the presence of God. And I pray that you felt the Lord's presence today. Obviously, the Lord has moved already. We've had people even come during the worship time and come and lay their burdens down. Let me tell you about this church. You don't need a invitation to come you don't have to wait till the end of the sermon. If God moves on you, you move right then. Don't wrestle with the Holy Spirit. You move right then. You come to the altar. It's always open. And if the Lord moves on you during my preaching, you come down, somebody will be around you and we'll pray for you. But we always want you to know that we're a church of order. We believe in order, of course, but it's always in order when you are called by the Lord to come to Him. So it's always appropriate, okay? Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1 through 2. Hebrews, just to give you a little history on Hebrews, no one knows the author. There's no one that knows. Some people have ideas of who the writer of Hebrews is, but no one knows who the author is. However, this author of Hebrews has given us what is called the Heroes Hall of Faith. It talks about several people who are just ordinary people, just like you and like me, that work regular jobs, just regular, ordinary people tending sheep. Some of the lowest things, not people that in high standards that grew up with a spoon, a golden spoon or silver spoon in their mouth, but people who were just common, ordinary people who used faith, and by using faith in God, God changed their circumstances. And man, we look at them, we admire them as heroes today, but really what it boils down to is that they're not the hero. It's that their faith really just put their trust in God fully and wholeheartedly, and then God became the hero that He always is, and He's your hero, He's my hero. But today I want to start here, and this is really, he starts here, the writer starts in verse 1 with the definition of what faith is. So this is what it is. It says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Some of you know that in King James Version, that it's the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence has not yet been seen. That's what faith is, right? This is what the ancients were commended for. So we find here that faith is believing in something you can't see. You can feel it, but you can't touch it, okay? You can't touch it, you can't see it, but yet you stake everything on your belief that its existence is, okay? So keeping that in mind today, we're going to talk about faith. And when we talk about faith, we see God do incredible things, especially through ordinary people. And the thing is, when we pick up on these superheroes in the Hall of Faith here, we see this person as a hero after faith has been applied. A lot of times we don't really study their lives before faith was applied. A lot of times we just see that they applied faith, and that faith brought them into the highlights of history, and we look back at them, think, wow, I wish my life could be like that. But really, they're just like you and me. We're all the same. We're just God's creation getting through life, and they had struggles and problems and issues and health issues and family problems and all different kinds of things, even battling spirits. But yet when they put their faith in God, God did something amazing with that faith. When we say that we live for God, what we're saying is that we have faith in God. We're believing in a God that we've never seen. We're trusting in a God that we cannot see. We can't physically touch Him, but yet we believe so much in His existence. By placing our faith in Him, we say things, we go places, we do things that we never could do without faith. So let's start off by talking about what faith is not today. What is faith? What is faith not? I think a lot of times the way that I find a true definition of something is by tackling it from the back forward. And I think sometimes we have an idea of what faith is, and we sort of go with it. We settle into, I think I know what it is, so I'm just going to go with that. So I think sometimes to prove something, the best thing to do is to tell you what it isn't. So today, faith is not just believing. I know a lot of people say, well, it's just believing. It's believing. Faith is believing. Well, absolutely, you have to have belief to have faith. But let me tell you that believing is not all of it. There's so much more to that. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. In James chapter 2 and verse 19, this is what James, the brother of Jesus, by the way, who's preaching throughout the Mediterranean Sea area to new believers, he's telling them this: you believe that there is one God. That's good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. So he's saying, you believe in God, that's wonderful. You believe, I believe, we're all here because we believe in God. But you know what? Even the devil believes that. Even God, the devil and even demons believe that there is a God. They believe it. And they believe it so much that they tremble and shake. Oh, he's real, he's real, he's real. And so sometimes we just wrap it up in just belief, but it's so much more than that. Just because you say there is a God or because you go to church, it doesn't necessarily move God. Okay? Just your being here in this building today and you need a miracle doesn't mean that that's going to move God's hand because you showed up today. I mean, I appreciate you getting ready. I'm sure God does too, and you blocking off some time and you showing up today. But it's more than belief. And let me tell you what it is. Faith is, however, a sincere belief that has a corresponding action. So it's not just believing in God, you have to also have an action that goes along with that faith. Many times we talk about put legs on our prayers. Some of you have heard that before, putting some legs on our faith. That's absolutely right when it comes to faith and believing in God so much that it changes the way you live. It changes the way you act. It changes the way you talk about things. It changes your reaction to certain things and troubles and traumas in your life. All of a sudden now, it's not that I believe in God, but I have an action. And this is what we're saying. Because I believe in God, I now do this. I didn't do it before, but because I believe in God and put my belief in God, I have a corresponding reaction and an action that goes along with that that says, I now live this way. I used to live in panic when things happen, but now my action, because I believe in God and because I have faith in God, I have an action that corresponds with that belief that says, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to not panic, but I'm going to trust God. I used to panic and believe, but because I put my faith in the Lord, I'm not going to worry anymore. I know that God is going to take care of this. James chapter 2 and verse 14 through verse 17. It says, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? You're not doing anything with your belief. I have a faith, I believe in God, but I don't have anything that follows that. To have faith but has no deeds, can such faith save them? Now look at this. He says, suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to that person who is without clothes and without food and they're hungry, go in peace and keep warm and stay well fed, but does not do anything about their physical needs, then what good is your faith? That makes sense, doesn't it? It says, in the same way, faith by itself is not, if it's not accompanied by an action, is dead. Faith without works is dead. Okay? So this is what we're saying. Yesterday, yesterday was a big day at our house. Some of you saw. Yesterday we celebrated Lauren's birthday. Actually, today is her birthday. Happy birthday to you, my youngest baby girl, who will always be my baby. We love her, and she turned 22 today, and it seems like just yesterday. You blink, they're gone. But also, she got engaged yesterday, so it was a big, big thing. I knew all this was coming. I knew this was coming, and we were talking, and Nathan had come to me and asked, and I tried to put it off, and I realized he wasn't going to change his mind. So I started thinking, that's one less mouth to feed. The utilities will go down a little bit. Yeah, I'll let you have her. No. I feel like we're probably gaining a son in this, and so I congratulate them. But I knew that this was happening, so she had given me her wish list for dinner, and she wanted certain things for dinner. So I went over to Publix, and I go, and when I walk up to Publix, I see that there's a young man that's sitting there underneath the shaded area, and he has a shopping cart. And I know exactly who he is. Not just I don't know what he is, that he's homeless, but I know who he is. Because God has put this person in my path so many times. I have an old truck that I've restored, and it's a 66 model truck, and I've completely restored it. And this young man had a 67 truck, and even though they're close to the same year, the body style changed. And so I saw him out one day, and I always look for opportunities to just tell people about the Lord. He's a very rough looking guy. He's tattooed up his arms, both arms, his chest, and even the top of his head. He has tattoos all over his neck, everything. I'm not saying that makes you a bad person, but it sort of tells your story that you probably, have been around a little bit. And so I just walked over to his truck, and he told me that he was a painter. And super nice guy. I'm going to call him John because some of you may know him, just for his protection. But I got to know him at a paint store and just started talking to him about that, and just started witnessing to him, telling him about Jesus. And I prayed with him. The first time I ever met him, I prayed with him. And he was very welcome to that, very welcome to it. Later, I would see him out at a gas station. I'd see that truck, and I'd whip in, and I'd go over and I'd pray for John. I'd just say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" And one night I was driving down the road, and I see his truck, that same truck, backed into Dollar General in Muscle Shoals. And I pull over and said, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" And he's like, "Man, it's funny that you pulled up." He said, "I'm sitting here, and I'm just thinking about my life and where I am and what needs to happen." And he said, "Would you pray for me?" I said, "Absolutely." And so I prayed for him. Got out of the car. I stood there with him and prayed with him. And every time I see him, I always hug him. And then another time I saw him in the winter. God kept putting him in my path over and over and over again. And I saw him over in a parking lot somewhere, and I pulled in, and, "How you doing, John?" And we began talking, and I see that he has some plexiglass over his windows, and it's broken. It's very thin plexiglass, and it's broken, like bursted just completely, and the cold air coming in on him. And I said, "You know what? I don't live far from here. Stay right here. I think I've got a sheet of plexiglass that is thick at my house, and I have no use for it. Let me go get it. I think it's just the right size." And so I brought it back to him. He was completely thankful for it. And I blessed him, prayed with him again. Well, ironically, yesterday I walk up to Publix, and there's no truck this time. He has a shopping cart. And I said, "Man, what's going on?" And I just sat down beside him, right there flat on the sidewalk. People going by. I had neighbors that I know that live right next to me that are walking by and looking at me. I don't care. I'm sitting on the sidewalk, and I get down for this guy so he doesn't have to look up at me. And I just begin to tell him how that God still has a plan for his life. I said, "John, I don't know why it is, but God keeps putting you in my path. He keeps putting you there." And he's sweaty, and he doesn't smell good. He hasn't bathed in a couple of weeks. And I said, "John, I'm going to put you in a hotel tonight." And I said, "I want you to push your cart right down there." And I told him which hotel. I said, "I'm going to get you something to eat, and I'm going to meet you down there, and I'm going to get you a nice night's stay, and you're going to get a shower, and you're going to get a good night's rest so you don't have to sleep out in this heat tonight." And I can't do that every night. You guys know that. But this is truly a guy that's just down on his luck. He has just hit a bad spot in life. He's not lazy. He's got a trade. He's good at what he does, but the engine blew up in his truck. He's got no way to work now. He has no way to go to work if he had a job. He's just down. He never asked me, and has never asked me for a penny, but I just simply showed him love. Now, what would happen if I said to him, hey, buddy, I know it's hot outside. I know it's hot out here. I don't even like walking from my air-conditioned car inside the air-conditioned store, but I sure wouldn't want to have to sleep outside in this. And you haven't probably eaten in days or really even had anything clean or cold to drink. But what good is it for me to say to him, hey, I wish you well, and go on about my business? I think that scripture right there was for me this morning, to remind me that my belief in God, if I'm going to call myself a Christian, and if I'm going to call myself a person who has faith in God, my faith needs to be backed with an action of some sort. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to put him in a hotel, and it costs $100 to do that. And that's a cheap hotel, by the way. But you know, what about just saying, hey, could I buy you a $1.50 hamburger? Could I get you a cold dollar bottle of water inside the store? You know, so many of us, and I wonder how many people have gone past people in homeless conditions that have just been down on their luck. Not just people that are lazy, but folks, listen to me. A lot of the people that are homeless today are people who talk to themselves. You can see them going down the road. They're just sitting here. They're talking to themselves, talking to no one, carrying on a conversation in the middle of nowhere, talking to nobody, and their family has rejected them, and you're not going to hire them to run your business. But they have a soul. They have a life. They get hot, and they get hungry. And I'm saying, you know, God, what good is it for me to step over these people and come to church and worship you and to walk through the streets of this city and say, I'm a preacher and I do this and I worship God and I'm strong in the Lord and I believe in faith and I believe in all this. Listen, faith without works is dead. If you're not putting some action, some corresponding action with what you say you believe, it changes the way you talk, it changes the way you look at things, it changes the way you act, it changes your attitude, it changes the way you respond to situations like that. Because if I just have faith in God alone, my faith is dead. And it's impossible to please God without faith. So if you've got dead faith, you got faith, but it's dead, what good is it doing anyone? So belief is not enough without an action. If your faith in God does not change what you do, then your faith is useless. This is what James is saying. I'm not saying that sarcastically. I'm saying what Jesus' brother James said. If our faith doesn't change what we do, then our faith is useless. It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help them. Now, after I paid for that hotel, and after I paid for his meal, it was the best feeling for me. Not just him. I'll guarantee you the person that felt the best that day, after I get out of my car and help him lug his junk and his filthy clothes upstairs to the second level with no elevator, and I stay and carry him to the room, go in the room, sit down on the bed, and again talk to him that God still loves you. And you know what? This is just a season. God still loves you, and He's got a plan for your life. Faith without works is dead. If your attitude hasn't changed since you met God, your faith is useless. If you're still sarcastic, mean, and ugly to people, your faith is useless. If you still act the way you acted before you believed in God, your faith is useless. If you have no compassion for people that are hurting and that are down, your faith is useless. When God gets in your life and you place your faith in Him, you cannot continue to be like you were. You just can't. So faith will change you in a real good way. How many of you know that? Faith is not just believing, faith is changing everything about you. Let me give you two things real quick. Two things that will happen when you start living what you believe. It's not just believing, it's living what you believe. That's what faith is. One more time. It's not just believing, because many of us think that faith is believing. Well, it is believing, but it's living what you believe. Okay? Two things will happen in your life when you start believing in God. The first thing that happens for you is you have a confidence in God, a confidence that God can do anything. Okay? He can. How many of you know God can? God can do anything. Is anything too hard for God? Nothing. Is cancer too hard for God? Let me hear you. Is cancer too hard for God? Anybody believe in here? Any believers in the house? Is cancer too hard for God? Is it? No. Listen, you think about cancer, a lot of times cancer is so small that you can't even detect it. It's not in tumor form. A lot of times it is in microscopic form. It's in cells you can't even see with the naked eye. You've got to blow it up in some magnified form so oh wow, you've got cancer. So don't tell me that God is smaller than a cell. Don't tell me, how big are you? Let's say you're eaten up with cancer and you're 6 foot tall. Okay? 6 foot, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is God bigger than this? I'm talking about you're eaten up with cancer and you're 6 foot tall. That's about as big as it gets, okay? How big could your cancer get? Let's say it's just got every bit of you. Is God bigger than 200 pounds? Huh? I think He is. So a confidence, if I have faith in God, confidence that He can. Yes, He can. Oh, yes, He can. God can. And I heard you a minute ago. I hope you weren't lying in church. Many of you are saying, yeah, He can. But really, when we really want to start getting cranking on this thing, it's not just with confidence, it's also with certainty. Certainty means that He will. Okay? And many of us have faith to believe God can. We have confidence, but we don't have certainty. Many of us believe that, oh, yes, He can. Yes, God can do anything, Brother Greg. He can, absolutely. He can heal anybody. There's nothing God cannot do. But let's talk about the certainty part of it. Because faith is being confident in something and being certain that God can perform what He said He could do. So if we're looking at certainty, we're saying He will. Do you believe He will? That's about all I heard. Maybe 2 yeses. Isn't it interesting how we have such faith when it comes to God can, but we don't have much faith that He will? So is it really faith at all? Or are we just tricking ourselves and coming in here and singing a few songs that make us feel good and enjoy some dynamics of church? Or are we really the people who have a faith in God that is so certain and confident that He not only can, but He will? Yeah. That we have such a confidence in Him that we're not going to panic, we're not going to worry, because God's got this. I put my faith and trust in Him. He's going to take care of it. I'm going to win. I'm going to win in this thing. He always causes me to win. He always causes me to triumph. It may not be the plan I wanted, but it'll be a winning plan. I'll guarantee you that. It'll win. It'll win. God's never a loser. He's never lost. He's always going to win. He's going to win this battle too. I'm certain of it. I'm certain. I'm certain. I'm certain that he can heal. I'm certain that he can save. I'm certain that he can deliver. I'm certain that he can take this problem from me. I'm certain that he is Jehovah Jireh. He is my provider. Well, Brother Greg, if you just knew what we were going through, Brother Greg, if you just knew what was going on in our life, yeah, I believe God can. Now, Brother Greg, I believe God can. Don't reason with me. Not only can God, be certain that he will take care of you. Let me ask you, how many times have you worried through life? Anybody ever worried? Anybody? Raise your hand if you've ever worried. Has anybody ever lost sleep and worried to the point that you couldn't eat? Now, folks, when I get to that point, it's sure enough serious, okay? It is. So we've all been there where we've just been sickened by worry. Let me ask you to do something. Just take your finger and just tap your wrist like this. You know what that means? You're still here. You're still here. You got through it. You got through what you were worried about, what robbed your sleep, what robbed you of all your problems. Somehow, some way, God brought you through it, and you're still here. Yes, you are. Oh, I don't know if I can live without this person in my life. Yes, you can. You can live without that person in your life. If you're still here, God's got a plan for you. I promise you that God has something for you. We've got to get to the place where we go and we take it from God can to God will. You know that he will do what he said he will do. That's when faith really starts cranking in your life. That's when you can start checking things off your prayer list. Come on, somebody. Has anybody got a prayer list? Many of us have a prayer list that we've been praying for a long time, but it's been a long time since we checked somebody off. It's been a while since we scribbled their name out. Maybe some of us need to move from God can to God will, because he will do what he said he will do. Even if it's crazy, even if it's weird, even if it seems so out of touch, even if it's out of my control, even when it looks bleak and it looks over, he said he would, and I'm gonna trust him with it. He said he would, and I'm not gonna panic because he said so. He said he would, and I'm not going to panic. Look at that. He said he would, and I'm not going to panic. Why are you not going to panic? Because you're going to put some action in what you believe. Okay? You're going to put some action behind what you believe. Because if you don't put some action with it, you're really not a believer. Did I say that? I sure did. And I ain't taking it back. If you don't put some action with your faith, you don't have faith. And that's what James said, not me. Take it up with him. If you just wish people well and you don't do something about it, that your faith didn't do you any good or them any good, it's useless. And you know, useless faith does not please God. Only faith pleases God. It's impossible to please God without faith. Well, Brother Greg, you just don't know. I don't have to know. Brother Greg, it's this bad. It can't be more than 6 foot and a couple of 100 pounds. I mean, it can be. I mean, what you can live with, I mean, not long, but let's say it's 600 pounds. Y'all watch that show, 600 Pound Life? Those people are miserable. But let's say you're 600 pounds. Let's just put it in the worst case scenario, 6 foot, 7 foot tall. Let's just say they're 9 foot tall and 1,000 pounds. Folks, how big is your God? How big is your God? Many of us are worried about something that is so small, it could be fit on a fingernail. Some of you may have a lump in your body right now, and it's so small it could sit on your thumbnail. And you're giving all of this and saying, this is so big and I don't know what we're going to do. Folks, let me tell you something. We have to move from confidence to certainty. That God will do what he said he would do. He is my healer. I put every egg in that basket. Every egg of mine is in that basket. I'm not just going to say, well, if it doesn't work out, this is what we're going to do. No, 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 no. The weeping endures for the night. Joy comes in the morning. He said he would, and I'm certain that he will. Then let me ask you this question. If you've got faith in God, why do you act like you act? Now that sounds sort of like, why are you acting the way you acting? I know what it sounds like, but just stay with me. Stay with me for a second. Why do you do what you do, and why do you say what you say? That every time a problem comes up, oh no, oh no. I walked past some people in church one night, and I walked past them. They said, well, I guess all we can do now is just pray. Like, boy, it's gotten so bad, we're going to have to pray about it. We've tried everything else. We've tried to do it without prayer. We've tried to do it without God. We've tried every avenue we could, because now we're down to the last resort. I guess we'll have to pray. Well, that's not being very confident in God, right? So why do we act like that? Why do we act that way? Why don't we let God fight our battles? If we truly have faith in God and we believe he's so big and mighty, he's not just God, he's a mighty God. He's a mighty warrior. He has never lost a battle. He is a champion warrior. He has controlled everything in this universe. He speaks the galaxies into existence with his words. And that's the God that I believe in. And that I not only believe in him, but I trust him wholeheartedly that he will do what he said he would do. It's impossible for God to lie. And if God said it, he will perform what he said he would do. If his word tells me he will, he will. He will. He will. And I'm not budging from that. If he said he would, he will. Because it's impossible that he would lie. So let me ask you, why do we believe the opposite of everything God tells us? Why do we believe the devil who cannot tell the truth? Some of you are in situations today that are very dire. I get that. Listen, I'm a compassionate person. I feed homeless people. Remember? Stay with me. I'm not incompassionate. I'm a compassionate person. I love you. Compassion is what led Jesus to many miracles. The Bible said, moved by compassion, Jesus would stop along his way, go out of his way to Samaria. He would go out of his way and he would go into Bethesda, and he would pray for people at the porches with sick people and people with disease. And he would go out of his way and take care. Don't you know that God will go out of his way for you? Faith in God focuses on what is not seen instead of what is seen. Okay? Stay with me. Faith in God focuses. Yesterday or this past week, something happened in the Shoals area. And it was a terrible thing. And I was out in my car and I was trying to see what was going on. I just remembered I've got a set of binoculars right in my door. I reached down, I grabbed those binoculars out and I start zeroing those things in because as I focus on them. Now, if you look through them, it's just going to be cloudy. But if you dial them in just right, I could see the hair on people's face. And they were women. But I dial it in, man, just right, and I could focus. Listen, faith in God focuses on what is not seen instead of what is seen. It focuses more on what isn't there more than what is there. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 16 through 18. Just keep playing there. It's beautiful. And it's setting us up for something great. Therefore, we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day, Paul said. He said, for our light and momentary, I love that, light and momentary. And if you read his life, it's nothing light and it's not momentary. He's going through some hardships that hang around for days and months and weeks and everything. But he knows it's going to stop. It's seasonal. He says, these troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that outweighs all the things that we've been through. Keep going here. So we fix. We focus, we fix, we focus, we focus, we focus our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is, say it, what is seen is temporary. And you know why it's temporary? Because God will do what he said he would do. Faith is believing that what I see is temporary. This problem is not here to stay. God has, what did we do a minute ago? I'm still here. Man, I've worried myself sick. I can't eat. I have cried till I can't cry anymore, Brother Greg. I'm compassionate for you. Listen, I really am. But you're still here. And it's not because of your smarts and intelligence and education. You would not be sitting where you're sitting if God hadn't pulled some strings for you. That's just the truth. So, but on what is unseen, we focus on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So why are you acting like you acting? Now you understand why I had that question. Why are you acting like you're acting? If you've got faith in God, why are you panicking like you're panicking? Why are you worrying? Why are you crying like you're crying if you have faith in God? Stop looking around you and start changing your focus in on the unseen hand of God and the presence of God that is surrounding you so thick that if you just could see what is in the unseen, you would see that God is not going to let you. Listen, my baby girl over here is 22 years old. She's still my baby. Anybody else? Anybody else? My mama calls me on the phone. I'm 53 years old. My mother says, hey, baby. Every time, hey, baby, I'm still her baby. How many parents here would quickly, without even thinking or scratching your head, lay your life down for one of your kids? Absolutely, no question about it. I don't have to think, it's done. That question, listen, that decision has already been made. I don't have to think about that when it's already been made. If you as an earthly father or mother have those feelings, how much more so would God, the one who has taught us this, that's put his DNA inside of us, do the same thing for us? The Bible says, how many among you, if your son were to ask you for a loaf of bread, that you would give him a stone? How many fathers or mothers among you that if your son or daughter asked you for a fish, that you would give them a serpent? He says, if you know how to give good gifts to your children, so does your heavenly Father know how to give good gifts to you. We're talking about a God that cares about every little sparrow that falls from the sky. And man, if God cares about little sparrows, how much more does he care about you? By faith, let me recap on something that we covered this past Wednesday night. If you're out of Wednesday night church, get in here. It's the shot in the middle of the week that you need in your arm to sustain God's presence I wish we could do it every night of the week, but right in the middle of your week, get over here. I'm telling you, it's great. We've got something for every age. But Romans chapter 4 and verse 18, this is the last thing. Against all hope, Maybe there's somebody here today and you're against all hope. Listen to me. Maybe there's a family, a marriage. Maybe there's a financial need. Maybe there's a wayward son or daughter. Maybe there's a sickness or a disease. We could fill that hole with anything. Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed and so became the father of many nations. Here's a man 100 years old, has never had a child, but he believed God. God said it. It's enough for me. I'm 100 years old. That's biologically impossible. All these scientists are going up to him, really encouraging, I'm sure. Are you kidding? Even his wife laughed. Sarah laughed and said, that's ridiculous. But Abraham, in spite of everything, believed God and became the father of many nations, just as it had been said to him. By who? By God. God told him. God did what he said. So shall your offspring be. It says, without weakening in his faith. There's the word we've been talking about. Without weakening in his faith. He faced the facts that his body was good as dead. You got to face the facts. Okay, we got all this. I got this big debt. Okay, I've got cancer. Okay, I've got a heart disease. Okay, I've got a son that's on drugs, a daughter that's on drugs, a grandchild that's in jail. I've got all this stuff going on. I've got a husband that's lost. I've got this issue and it's killing me. He faced the fact that his body was as good as dead since he was about 100 years old and that Sarah's womb was already closed and dead. Yet, you know what that word means? It means the same thing that we use for but. But, it's a conjoining word. It joins two sections of a sentence. When we use the word yet, we're taking one thing and I'm going to tell you all about it. And then when I use the word yet or but, it cancels everything that I just said. And it starts a new sentence with a new topic. Yet, though he faced the facts, though he's 100 years old, though his wife's womb was dead, though he could not have children, God said he could. And even though he faced the facts, and even though he realized his wife's womb was dead, and he didn't have any kids, and he was 100 years old, all the facts, yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was even strengthened in his faith and gave God the glory. Being fully persuaded that God had the power to do what he said he would do. Whew. Man, I could just take a big, deep breath on that and feel so good. And that's what faith is. It's not over till God says so. It's not over till God says so. It's not over till God says so. It isn't over till God says so. It ain't over till God says so. Either way you want to slice it, God gets the last word on it. If you'll put your faith in him like Abraham did, who was just an ordinary man, just like I'm an ordinary man and you're an ordinary man and woman, ordinary young person, when you put your faith in God. Now, faith is not just believing in God. There's more to it. It's putting an action with what you believe. So our belief in God is going to have an action with it. It's not wishing this homeless person well, but it's doing something about it. But it also relates like this. Okay, I have a need. I have a burden. I have a child, I have a sickness, I have a debt, I've lost my job, I need income, all those things. It's believing, but it's putting an action with it. And the action is, I'm giving it to God. The action is peace. It's going to be okay. Not worry, not panic, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right because God said so. He's going to take care of me just like he always has. Just like he always has. I'll be here next week. I may still have my problem, but I'll be here next week. I'm still here now. I've been through worse than this. I'm still here. It's not over till God says so. Come on, somebody. I said it's not over till God says so. So you start believing. Start believing. Oh God, today, Lord, in this room, there are people with needs. People that have walked in with burdens that are heavy burdens. God, we have things going on in our families. We got things going on in our finances. We got things going on with the spirit. Lord, the devil's wearing some of these families out right now, throwing fiery darts at them. Lord, some of us having problems with relationships. But Lord, today, God, you are a God of your word. And if we're going to say that we have faith, and we're going to sing songs about faith, and we're going to preach about faith, and we're going to hear about faith in our connection classes, and we're going to be a church about faith and about believing, we got to do something with this. God, we've got to understand that faith is not just mere belief. It has to have some corresponding action. So my action today is not to say, God, I believe you can do it, but I have a belief with an action that says, my God cannot be stopped. He's a way maker. What is he to you? He's a way maker. What is he? He's a miracle worker. What is he? He's a light in my darkness. My God. My God. What is he to you? Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who I serve. That's who I serve. I don't just serve some God that tells me things and teases me with little bits and pieces along the way. No, I serve a God that follows through on his promises. So today I want you to hit that faith believing button. I want to push that button for you today, and I want you to start believing today that God is not only can, but God will. He's a God that will. You know, when the leper reached up to Jesus, he said, Master, if you will just touch me, if you will, Lord, I can be clean. And Jesus touched him. He said, I will. And he did, and he was clean. We have a God that's willing. We don't have a God that just looks and turns a deaf ear to us. He knows what's going on, but maybe he's waiting for some faith to rise up in you. Maybe he's waiting for some true faith to rise up in you. In every miracle, and all the miracles of the Bible, there are many of them that Jesus met them according to their level of faith. Jesus met them and said, as your faith, according to your faith, let it be done unto you. According to your faith. Many times Jesus would be approached by people. He said, what do you want me to do for you, blind Bartimaeus? He said, I want to see. I believe you can do it, and I believe you will do it if I can just get in your presence. The man with the situation at the pool of Bethesda, 38 years, for 40 years he'd been lying there. Jesus said, what do you want to see happen today? He said, I want to walk. He said, according to your faith, get up, rise up and walk. With the woman with the issue of blood, he said, woman, according to your faith, it's been done for you. With the man with the centurion who came and had one of his servants at home, he said, Master, Lord, you don't have to come to my house, just say the word. If you just say the word, he's healed. I got that kind of faith. And Jesus said, I hadn't seen that kind of faith. He said, your servant's healed. According to your faith, you got to start focusing on the unseen hand of God, the unseen miracle working hand of God that's working on your behalf right now, that's fighting the evil off of you right now, that's fighting the devil, that's fighting the demons right now. He's there. You can't see it, but it's happening in the unseen. Focus on the unseen. Focus on the unseen, how that God is getting to you right now, how that He's working it out when you can't see it. He's somewhere in the Spirit working things out for you.